My boyfriend breaks down the door and finds me and his best friend in the bathroom shirtless. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My boyfriend grabs John by the collar and throws him on the floor. Then they start punching each other. I put my shirt back on and several other people started trying to break up the fight. When they finally separated, I told my boyfriend that I didn't want to be with him and that I was breaking up with him. And he grabbed my arm really hard, pulled me out of the party, and put me in his car. He started punching his steering wheel and I told him to calm down. That's when he tells me that I can't break up with him and that I'll never find anyone better. He drove me to my house and on the way he was interrogating me. I told him he was too jealous, controlling, and that he made me feel terrible about myself. Then he told me that that's how he shows his love. Then I told him it was over again. He said the only reason I was breaking up with him was because I was drunk. When he finally left my house, I called John to apologize for everything. That's when John told me my boyfriend had been cheating on me for months and that he actually got a girl pregnant. And worst of all, I knew the girl. Part 3 is up. I knew the girl that my boyfriend had gotten pregnant. I also knew where she lived, so I got in my car and I went over there. She opened the door and I could clearly see a baby bump. I could not believe it. She invited me in and explained that her and my boyfriend had been seeing each other for a few months and that he wanted her to have an abortion, but she didn't want to. She also told me that he threatened her. She also told me that meeting him was the worst thing that ever happened to her. That's when I started getting phone calls from my boyfriend. He started sending me messages asking me where I am, but I had turned off my location so he couldn't see. I finally answered the phone and when I told him where I was, he hung up on me. When I got home, he was there waiting for me. He denied everything. He said that John made all of that up and that the girl was helping him and that they were only setting out to break us up. He's basically forcing me to stay with him. So now we're all waiting for the baby to be born to get a paternity test. Also, John and I have been hooking up on the regular. I know that's not good. What do you guys think I should do? Story time about how I just found out I'm pregnant and I don't know if it's my boyfriend's or my sugar daddy's. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, it's not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My boyfriend and I have been together for a while and everything's been okay, but we're both pretty broke. He doesn't earn a lot of money and I'm usually the one paying for a lot of stuff, but he always tries to chip in on everything. I started modeling a few years ago, but things stopped because of COVID. By the way, I live in LA and a lot of my friends are sugar babies. All of them are Instagram models and influencers, and they know so many rich guys. So I reached out to one of my friends who's a very famous influencer, and I asked her if she could set me up with a sugar daddy. I know I have a boyfriend, but I've been struggling and I just can't pay the bills anymore. She got me a date with this older gentleman who was actually pretty nice. We went out on a few dates and he basically told me what he wanted from me. I agreed to everything. A few months passed by and he asked me to marry him. Of course I had to say no. See, I still love my boyfriend. And I just found out I'm pregnant. I took a pregnancy test and it came out positive. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. And that's when it hit me. I didn't know if it was my boyfriend's or my sugar daddy's. I had been seeing my sugar daddy for about 3 months at that point. So I went to the doctor to find out how far along I was. And sure enough, I was 2 months pregnant. By the way, my boyfriend had no idea I had a sugar daddy, but he also wasn't asking where all the money was coming from to pay our bills. Remember my influencer friend who got me my sugar daddy? She told me to just tell my sugar daddy that the baby was his. That way I could ensure the baby's financial future. I felt really bad saying that since I didn't know if it was his baby. So here's what I did. I told my boyfriend and then I told my sugar daddy. My boyfriend freaked out and told me to unalive the baby, if you know what I mean. And my sugar daddy asked me to marry him again. After that, my sugar daddy bought me a car and he opened up a joint account between the two of us so I have access to a lot of money. My boyfriend's just mad all the time now. My sugar daddy's being so sweet. Part 3 is up. So now that my sugar daddy gave me a lot of money, disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I kind of want to break up with my boyfriend and be with my sugar daddy. My boyfriend is always angry because of the pregnancy. My sugar daddy is totally supportive. Because I wanted to break up with my boyfriend, I started looking through his phone just to see if I could find anything. You know, like an excuse to break up with him. And guess what I found in his DMs? He had been messaging a ton of girls for like 6 months. I went through every single conversation and there were about 15. Some of them are even the influencer girls who I said were my friends. I guess they're not really my friends. A week ago, I found everything and my boyfriend said that he was unhappy in the relationship and that's why he had done it. But now he's saying he wants the baby and that's why we should stay together. But my sugar daddy is being so sweet and he's so excited for the baby. What do you guys think I should do? I definitely think I should break up with my boyfriend, but what if the baby isn't my sugar daddy's? What do I do?
Has anyone ever told you not to do something and that just made you want to do it more? Once, 3 girls went into a video rental store to find a horror movie to watch. They came across an old tape, but the woman at the store told them they weren't allowed to watch it. After one girl stole the tape, they decided to watch it together, but what they would see would terrify them. They pressed play. Suddenly, the room went into darkness, with only the TV on. On screen, they saw a woman tied to a wooden stake. She was surrounded by an angry crowd carrying torches, until one man walked towards the woman and set the wood beneath her feet on fire. The woman began laughing, and as the flames reached her face, she screamed that all who witnessed her death would suffer the same fate in 2 days. Then the tape cut off. The girls were scared, but eventually convinced themselves it was a prank. They decided to return the tape, but when they went back to the store, they found that it was gone. It was just an abandoned building. 2 days later, all 3 girls were found scattered across the city, their bodies burned beyond recognition. When the police investigated the strange coincidence, they found nothing around the girls had been touched by flames at all, except the trash can outside of one of their homes. Everything inside had been turned to ash except for one mysterious videotape, which was left untouched.
I was a product of an affair between my mom and dad. My mom was already married and had a 1-year-old daughter. She wanted to abort me, but my dad begged her and paid her a hefty sum. She signed over all rights and I didn't see her for my 14 years of life. She recently contacted my dad saying she wanted to get to know me better, and he said it's entirely up to me. I was skeptical but decided to meet her. I've been talking to my mom's side for about 2 months when at a family gathering they all sat me down and said the reason they contacted me was because my half-sister was having kidney failure and was basically dying. At a loss for words, I got up and left. I told my dad and he said it's entirely up to me, but I should get tested just to see before I make my decision. So I did. When my mom found out, she thought this was me agreeing and told everyone the good news. I did a lot of thinking and I decided I would not be donating my kidney. This family had done nothing for me. The only reason they tried to get in contact was for my kidney. So I don't want anything to do with them. I got loads of hateful calls and messages, but decided to stand by my decision. My stepsister called me and said I'm a douche for giving her false hope. People are saying I'm wrong because I can save a life. My stepsister did nothing wrong. My sister-in-law and I have an agreement where she watches the kids 3 days a week and I watch hers 3 days a week. A couple of weeks ago, we had an argument, and the next day I brought my kids to her house and dropped them off and left. When I got to work, I had 20 missed calls, all from my sister-in-law saying I need to pick up the kids because she doesn't want to watch them due to our fight. And I had 45 minutes to get there or else she'll call the cops. It took me about an hour to get back to her house, but she already called the cops, so I had to stick around long enough to tell the officer that I didn't abandon my children, it was just miscommunication. I have since arranged for other childcare for my kids and I've been mostly ignoring her. However, she reached out and apologized and has asked if I'd be willing to go back to the old childcare arrangement. I work with kids. If I got abandonment on my record, I would never work in my field again, which she knew, and her calling the police was a massive overreaction. She said that if I checked my phone, talked to her that morning, or came back when I was supposed to, she would not have needed to call the police, and I did this to myself. I've told her that if she thinks I'm babysitting for her, she's delusional and she's on her own. Because of my refusal, it's looking like she may need to quit her job because my brother and her would pay more for a babysitter than they would earn from her working. My mom and brother are calling me an asshole because there was no consequence to her calling the police. My fiancé and I are getting married in a few months, and our wedding is on a Saturday. It's 3 days after his niece's 6th birthday. He has 2 nieces while I have 1. When we booked the date, we were aware that it was close to her birthday, but we figured because it was not on her actual date, it would be fine. His sister has recently asked if we could make our wedding a little bit more special for her daughter. She asked if she could pick out the dresses, for her to wear a tiara while the other 2 have simple headbands, and invite 1 school friend and 30 minutes to an hour of her music playing. She also wanted people to sing happy birthday to her. We said no to this. We want the flower girl dresses to all look the same and to go with the color scheme. Plus, we know that if the other girls see her wear a tiara, then they will also want one. We don't want some kid at our wedding who is not with their own parents. As for the music, it would be annoying, but all guests are welcome to request songs to the DJ. And I told her we can sing happy birthday after we cut our cake and we can bring her out a little cupcake. My sister-in-law is unhappy about this because our wedding means her daughter will not get a birthday party that year. And she thinks waiting until the weekend after is too long and it will upset her daughter. My partner is starting to cave, but I don't want to budge. He feels bad in the situation, but I don't. Am I wrong for not having a birthday party at my wedding? My sister and I have always been mistaken as twins. I'm 19 and she's 16, but we have the same height, skin tone, and similar voice. She also has a habit of being a copycat, from the way I dress to hobbies, even piercings. I know it's cute if you look at it from the outside, but sometimes it gets annoying. Like, yeah, we are quite close too, but why does she always happen to pick up everything I pick up? One afternoon, I was tidying up some costumes in my college showroom and found a rather cute brown and pink wig. It looks like a mushroom. I put it on, think it looks rather funny, so I snapped a picture and posted it to my Instagram. I received a text from my sister asking if I really cut my hair. I didn't mention it was a wig. While I somewhat have a feeling that she might copy that too, I lied and replied yes. I came home that weekend and lo and behold, my sister emerged with the same silly brown and pink bob cut, except this one is on her permanent hair. She was surprised that I arrived with my hair still long, then realized that I lied to her. She was furious that she had to cut that silly hairstyle because she thought I had it. Our parents think that it's a really bad joke and wanted me to cut my hair too to make it up to her. So my wedding was on September 21st, 2019. My cousin from my stepdad's side brought her boyfriend that she'd been seeing for about 6 months. And I've only seen him once before my wedding. We're all having a great time, and the next thing I know, my cousin's boyfriend asks the DJ for the mic and goes to the center of the dance floor saying he has a special announcement to make and calls my cousin over. So I rush over and say, nope, no one is getting engaged during my special day, especially during my reception. You can get engaged later tonight, but not right now. It's my day. Thank you for understanding. And I go to walk away. My aunt, which is my cousin's mom, starts yelling at me and calling me an entitled brat. It causes a huge fight and they all end up leaving. My stepdad's mom says I was wrong and told me to apologize and call them over and allow him to propose. Needless to say, it didn't happen. Flash forward to Christmas. It was terrible. My stepdad's entire side was there and they were rude and ignoring my husband and I the entire time. And of course, my newly engaged cousin announces her wedding date, which is September 21st, 2020. I'm beyond pissed and not planning to go. It's my 1-year wedding anniversary. My cousin says they chose to get married on their 1-year engagement anniversary. But I don't.
This is why waking up late might just save your life. One day when I was in elementary school, my mom and I both overslept, which meant I wouldn't be ready in time to get on the bus. School started at 8, my bus pickup time was at 7, and it was already 6:40 or something. I was still in my PJs and hadn't even had breakfast yet. My mom decided that today we would just tell the bus driver to go on ahead and she would take me to school, which would give me plenty of time to get ready. It's 6:50, I'm in my PJs eating breakfast, and that's when we hear the bus pull up 10 minutes earlier than scheduled. My mom peeks her head out of the door into the foggy morning and waves the bus on. She closed the door and came back inside, but the bus didn't pull away. There's a knock at the door and my mom opens it to find a man in a bus driver uniform. He explains he's a substitute bus driver because the regular driver called in sick and that he's early because he wanted to get an early start on the route. My mom says she's taking me to school because we woke up late. He gets visibly upset and says he can wait a few minutes since he's already ahead of schedule. My mom says that we won't be ready in a few minutes and tells him to go on ahead. He seemed really angry about this, but turned around, got back on the bus and left. But at 7 a.m., another bus pulls up to my house. My mom went out to talk to them and came back looking terrified. Part 2 of why sleeping in might just save your life. After talking to the bus driver, my mom came back looking terrified, but she didn't say anything about it and told me to finish getting ready for school. At the time, I didn't know what happened, but my mom would end up telling me a few years later. When she went to the second bus, she found out it was being driven by my regular driver and it was full of other kids that are usually on my route. By the way, the other bus was empty. My mom asked the driver about the substitute driver and about him calling in sick. He tells her that he never called in sick and there is no substitute driver on his route. The driver immediately called dispatch in a panic and told my mom to go inside and call the police and report this incident, which she did without me knowing at the time. There was absolutely no one doing my driver's route that day. Whoever this was most likely a kidnapper who had targeted me. I never heard anything about it again, not even if someone else had ended up being picked up by this mysterious fake bus driver. But chances are, had I gotten on that bus, I would never have made it to school or back home. And if we hadn't overslept on that specific day, I would have been on that bus.
I work as an assistant for a really big fashion company. We had a defective wedding dress and my boss asked if I knew anyone we could give it to. My best friend recently got engaged, so it was perfect. When she posted on Instagram to thank me and my boss, my family caught wind of it and that's when the influx of calls came. I do not have a good relationship with my family. My parents kicked me out when I was 16 after I came out to them, and my sister wasn't much better. They demanded to know why I gave the dress to my friend and not to my sister. I didn't even know she was engaged. They suggested I try to take it back from my friend as family should always come first. My sister even tried to call my boss to complain. I just got off the phone with my mom and this is how the conversation went. She says my sister is very upset about the dress and I told her she needs to get over it. My mom says I can make it up to them by giving her another dress. I posted one last night on my Instagram. It's a $12,000 dress and that's the one my sister wants. And I told her, you expect me to give you a $12,000 dress when you kicked me out when I was 16? My mom says, that was a long time ago and we're talking about your sister, not me. When I refused to give the dress, my mom says the least I can do is help her buy one. At this point I hang up and I've been avoiding them since then.
I'm going to tell you guys about the time that my entire class teamed up to take my teacher down. And by down, I mean fired, which is terrible, but... And to be clear, I wasn't involved in the incident. I was just asked in to be a witness along with the rest of the class. If you're not interested at this point, I don't even know. So when I was in 6th grade, I had this teacher called Mr. W. We're going to call him Mr. W. He was our science teacher. And he was fine. He wasn't amazing or bad. He was just okay. He did smell really, really bad. But again, that didn't affect his teaching at all. One day, however, I don't even know how this happened. He asked us all to get started on our work. He was a little irritated that day. I don't even remember why. One of the girls in our class, her name was Summer. She didn't have her workbook. Mr. W asked her where her work was. I didn't bring it today. They started arguing. The rest of the class was kind of silent, just watching this. She's a nice girl. She wasn't attacking him or anything. He did, however, get very angry. So angry, in fact, that he grabbed his binder and threw it across the room over her head. It just barely skipped her head and slammed on the floor. This wasn't like an empty binder from the dollar store. It was a teacher binder full of work. We were all silent. Summer stopped talking. Look for part 2. Okay, this is part 2 of my teacher almost getting fired. After that whole incident, my class was dead silent for the rest of the period. We then all went to lunch. None of us really talked about it, but then all of a sudden a woman came up to us. We were all kind of sitting around the same table. This woman, I guess she was administration. I have no idea who she was. I think what had happened was a bunch of students had reported him. She asked us all from Mr. W's class to follow her. I don't remember if this was the same day or the following day, but she asked us to follow her into an empty classroom. I think it was used for testing. She had us all sit around the table and recount the incident to the best of our ability. Summer was there. What she wanted to know was basically, did Mr. W throw that binder at Summer? And we all recounted it basically the same, but at the end of the day, we all said yes. But eventually, they let us all go. The following day, Mr. W was really sad. Barely spoke to us, barely did anything. He was passing out some work. He looked at Summer and said, "Summer, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw that binder at you." His voice sounded like he was about to break. But we did have him as our teacher for the rest of the year.
My neighbor made me watch lesbian porn from when I was 4 years old up until I was 10 years old. So she was a year older than me, and since we were around the same age, our parents had us hang out with each other. I remember that I was 4 years old because she was in kindergarten and I wasn't yet. I remember one day I was waiting for her to get off the bus, and when she got off the bus, she took me into her computer room. She locked the door and told me that I can't tell anybody what she's about to show me. So it started off with just looking up lesbians kissing on YouTube. And obviously I had no idea what this was because my family is very conservative and I never learned about that. So this would go on probably every single time that we hung out, which was probably every day. And she even forced me to watch it in my own house, but there was no lock on my door.
Some men are absolutely disgusting. Like, yuck, 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 yuck. Oh my God. So, I was just at the gym, being a baddie, trying to build a fatty bitch. And there's a guy working out next to me. And all of a sudden, a girl passes by and, he doesn't even look at her. Doesn't look at her face, just looks at her ass and, stares for a good 30 seconds. Like a weirdo. Like a straight 30 second. I understand peeking, 10 seconds, but 30 seconds just straight. And, there's nothing wrong with checking a girl out because some of these girls out here be fine. They be making you break your neck just to look at them because they're bad bitches, so it's well deserved. But the problem is, this man had the audacity to look at his friend and be like, "That's a hard sex." And then he started criticizing everything about this girl's body, even down to the fucking leggings she was wearing. Oh my God. But then, bitch, it got worse because then I started noticing that they were following different girls around the gym while they were doing their workouts, and they were rating them and critiquing them as to why they wouldn't or would smash. What the fuck? And in my head, I'm like, first of all, y'all are hardcores. I don't know why y'all talking when you look like the creepy uncles at the barbecue, bitch. These girls are out here trying to build up their hot girl.
November last year, I gave birth to our first baby. It's the first in my family and the sixth in my husband's family. It's important to say that all 6 kids are boys and my mother-in-law is in some sick, crazy girl phase. Ever since we made the announcement, my mother-in-law convinced herself that I was pregnant with a girl. I told her that once we knew the gender, she'd be the first person to know. Lo and behold, it was a boy. We told my mother-in-law we were having a boy, but she was still convinced it was a girl. She told the whole side of the family that it was a girl, and I corrected her, but she told them I was just annoyed because I wanted a boy first. I wanted a healthy baby. I didn't give a damn about the sex. She told them that we were naming the girl after her mom, which we will never do because my hubby hates his grandma. When the baby shower gift started to come, I noticed a lot of things that wasn't in the register, like embroidered things with the grandma's name on it. Well, the baby was born, and imagine the surprise, it was a boy, just like we have been telling everyone. The problem, for them at least, is that now the baby has plenty of girl clothes that we plan on putting on our son, specifically for his family video calls and
This is gonna be a story time of when my stepbrother killed our dog and fed it to me and my little sister for dinner. Let's get right into it. So my mom had died when I was younger and my dad had remarried. So I had a stepmom and she had a son. This motherfucker, let me tell you, we did not get along. I fought with him all the time, but it's because he was a little bitch. He would always bully me and my little sister and make fun of our weight. He would threaten to beat us up just for fun. You in our house, get it together. I began to scold my dad because he was the one who brought them in this fucking house and he wasn't doing nothing about it. He knew they were tearing our family apart and he did nothing. So, anyways, one night, my parents weren't home and my stepbrother had to watch me and my little sister. Like I said, he was a little bitch, so he was upset because he had plans to hang out with his girlfriend. But that really sounds like a personal problem. Let me stop coming at this man. It's just making me angry thinking about it. So my dad had sent my stepbrother money so he could go get groceries so he could make us dinner. But my stepbrother didn't want to, so he sent me instead. Oh, mind you, I was 12 at the time. And he sent me alone, and my little sisters were sleeping. When I came home and knocked on the door, I noticed that our dog didn't run up to see who was at the door. This is why it's better to have one friend that you hang out with regularly instead of having a big group of friends. And trust me, you're gonna want to listen to this story time. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was kind of going through an identity crisis, and low-key still am. I went to a predominantly white school for the majority of my life, so let's just say I was extremely whitewashed. It was one of those times in my life where if a white person said the N-word around me, I would just laugh. Not because I didn't know it was wrong, but because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be like everybody else, and I seeked validation. Sophomore year was really when I started to become who I am today. I wanted to learn way more about my culture and my background. So I started becoming friends with people from other schools that are more diverse. Eventually, I met this group of girls. And I thought these girls were going to be the sweetest girls I would ever meet. Now, this friend group was serving flavor. I'm talking diverse to the T. One night, we decided that we were going to spend the night at one of the girls' houses. Let's call this girl Sally. I kept getting lost on the way to Sally's house, and I thought it was because I didn't know the area that well. Keep in mind, that's what I thought was the reason. I get there and we watch 4 or 5 movies before I end up falling asleep. And when I wake up, I was in a room full of grown-ass men staring at me.